Have you ever wondered why some men have to chase, convince, and overthink every interaction, while others barely try, and yet women naturally move closer to them? The difference isn't looks, money, or smooth talk. It's something far quieter and far more psychological. Because when a woman truly wants intimacy with you, she doesn't make you guess. She doesn't play confusing games, and she doesn't send mixed signals. Her behavior changes in small, almost invisible ways that most people completely miss. And once you learn to recognize those subtle signs, you stop chasing connection and start attracting it without force or pressure, simply by understanding how the mind and emotions really work. When a woman wants intimacy with you, the very first shift almost always happens on an emotional level, not a physical one. And this is where many men completely misread the situation because they look for obvious flirtation while overlooking the quiet psychological signals that matter far more. Emotional softening is subtle, but it is powerful, and it begins when her nervous system stops seeing you as a potential threat or stranger and starts registering you as safe, familiar, and trustworthy. In everyday life, most people operate with emotional armor. They measure their words, they hide their insecurities, and they present a polished version of themselves to avoid judgment or rejection. This guarded behavior is normal self-protection. But when she feels drawn to you and begins wanting intimacy, that armor starts to loosen without her even realizing it. Her tone becomes warmer, less formal, less rehearsed. She laughs more freely. She shares stories that are personal rather than surface level. Instead of talking only about safe topics like work or daily routines, she begins to reveal her inner world, her disappointments, her dreams, her private thoughts, the things she doesn't casually offer to everyone. This is important because vulnerability is psychologically expensive. We only risk it with people we feel emotionally secure with. When she tells you about a past mistake, a family issue, or something that embarrassed her, she is not just making conversation, she is signaling trust. She is quietly saying, "I feel safe enough with you to let you see the real me." That is intimacy forming at its core. You may also notice that she starts seeking your emotional opinion, not just your casual feedback. She might ask how you would handle something personal or what you think about a decision she's struggling with. This shows that your perspective matters to her, that you're becoming someone whose emotional presence carries weight. She is not simply interacting with you, she is inviting you into her internal process. There is also a softness in her body language that accompanies this emotional opening. Her shoulders relax, her facial expressions become gentler, her eye contact lingers longer than usual. Guarded people tend to look away quickly or keep their bodies closed off, but when she feels comfortable, her posture opens and she seems settled rather than tense. Even silence changes. Instead of awkward pauses, there is a calm stillness, the kind where neither of you feels pressured to fill the space. Comfort with silence is a strong psychological indicator of safety because it means she doesn't feel the need to perform. Another sign of emotional softening is consistency. She keeps coming back to talk, to share, to connect, not out of obligation, but because she genuinely enjoys being emotionally close. She may text you small details about her day or check in when nothing urgent is happening, simply because maintaining that connection feels natural to her. All of this happens before any overt romantic move, before any direct statement, because emotional intimacy always precedes physical intimacy in healthy attraction. And when you pay attention to these quiet shifts, you begin to realize that the real signal is not what she says she wants, but how comfortable she becomes letting you see the parts of her that most of the world never gets to see. The second shift happens through proximity, and it is one of the most reliable psychological indicators of attraction because the human body is honest in ways words often are not. When a woman wants intimacy with you, she will gradually and naturally reduce the physical distance between you, not in an obvious or dramatic way, but in small, repeated movements that happen almost unconsciously. Personal space is deeply tied to safety. We instinctively keep strangers at a distance and only allow trusted people into our physical bubble. So when she begins stepping closer, sitting nearer, or positioning herself beside you instead of across from you, it is not random or coincidental. It is her nervous system signaling comfort and desire for connection. You might notice that in a group setting, even when there are plenty of seats available, she chooses the one next to you. She angles her body towards you while others are speaking. Her knees or feet subtly point in your direction. These cues may seem minor, but body orientation is one of the clearest signs of interest because we naturally face what we care about and turn away from what we do not. She might lean in while you talk, closing the gap as if your words matter more than the surrounding noise. That leaning is psychological investment made visible. It shows engagement, curiosity, and a wish to feel closer both physically and emotionally. Sometimes proximity shows up as excuses to share space. She may ask to look at something on your phone instead of you simply showing it from a distance. Or she might stand shoulder to shoulder with you while discussing something small that could easily be handled apart. These little choices create opportunities for closeness without the pressure of declaring it. There is also a pacing to this behavior that is important. She does not rush into your space abruptly because that would feel unsafe even to her. Instead, the distance closes gradually over time. First, she sits nearby, then she sits next to you. Later, your arms occasionally brush. Eventually, sharing space feels natural and unremarkable. That progression is how trust builds in the body. You may also notice that she lingers. After conversations end, she doesn't immediately walk away. She stays a moment longer, as if stretching out the time together. Lingering is a form of proximity too, because it communicates that leaving you feels less appealing than staying close. Psychologically, this behavior is tied to attachment. When we feel drawn to someone, our brain releases bonding chemicals that make closeness feel rewarding, and separation feel slightly uncomfortable. So she unconsciously extends moments with you. Even in motion, like walking through a hallway or crossing a street, she may match your pace and drift closer rather than creating space. It begins to feel as though you are moving as a pair instead of two separate individuals. All of these signs reflect a deeper truth about intimacy. Before someone allows emotional or physical closeness, their body must first decide that you are safe territory. When she consistently chooses nearness, when she repeatedly places herself within arm's reach without hesitation, she is showing that your presence feels secure and inviting, and that quiet, repeated movement toward you speaks far louder than any verbal confession ever could. The third shift shows up in the way her attention narrows and becomes intentionally focused on you. And this is one of the clearest psychological indicators that intimacy is beginning to form, because attention is our most valuable emotional currency, and we do not spend it carelessly. In everyday life, people are distracted, half listening, checking their phones, scanning the room for something more interesting. But when a woman feels drawn toward you and wants a deeper connection, that scattered focus starts to disappear whenever you are present. Instead of dividing her attention between you and everything else, she locks in. She listens closely to what you say, not just the headline details, but the small nuances, the tone, the feelings underneath your words. You notice that she doesn't interrupt you or rush to talk about herself. She lets you finish. She holds eye contact longer. Her expressions change with your story, as if she is emotionally tracking every part of it. This kind of listening is not passive. It is active engagement. It communicates, without saying it out loud, that you matter enough for her to slow down and truly absorb you. Psychologically, this happens because when we are attracted to someone, our brain assigns them higher importance, almost like turning up the brightness on one person while the rest of the world fades slightly into the background. You may also notice that she remembers things you casually mentioned days or even weeks ago. Perhaps you once talked about a stressful meeting, and later she asks how it went. Maybe you mentioned your favorite food or a childhood memory, and she brings it up unexpectedly. This is not random memory. It is selective retention driven by emotional relevance. The brain holds on to information about people we care about because they feel significant to our inner world. When she recalls these details, she is showing that you are occupying mental space even when you are not physically around. That is a powerful sign of growing intimacy. Her questions also change in quality. Instead of surface-level small talk like how your day was, she asks deeper things: what motivates you, what you worry about, what you want for your future. These questions are bridges. They are attempts to understand you beyond appearances. She is not collecting facts. She is trying to understand your character, your values, your emotional landscape. And when someone wants that level of understanding, it means they are considering a closer bond. There is also a warmth in how she responds. She validates your feelings, reacts with empathy, and shows genuine concern rather than detached politeness. If something good happens to you, she celebrates it. If something difficult happens, she wants to help. That emotional responsiveness is intimacy in motion. Even digitally, her attention shows up. She replies thoughtfully, not with cold one-word answers. She initiates conversations, sends you things that remind her of you, or checks in simply because you crossed her mind. All of this signals intentional investment, because the truth is simple and psychological at its core. When a woman wants intimacy, you stop feeling like an option and start feeling like a priority. And the steady, undivided attention she gives you becomes a quiet but unmistakable declaration of closeness that continues to deepen with every interaction. The fourth shift reveals itself through subtle, almost innocent physical contact, and this is where intimacy begins to move from emotional connection into the realm of the body, not in a bold or provocative way, but in small, gentle gestures that feel natural rather than forced. When a woman wants closeness with you, touch becomes a quiet language she uses without even realizing it, because human beings are wired to connect through physical contact. And when we feel safe and drawn to someone, the body looks for ways to shorten that gap. What makes this powerful is that these touches rarely look intentional or dramatic. They are brief, light, and often disguised within everyday interactions. She might brush your arm while laughing at something you said, tap your shoulder to get your attention even though she could simply call your name, or let her hand rest near yours on a table without pulling away quickly. These are not accidents. The brain does not casually cross personal boundaries unless comfort and attraction are already present. Touch is deeply psychological because it requires trust. We do not allow just anyone into our physical space. So when she initiates these small contacts, it signals that your presence feels safe to her nervous system. You may notice that she becomes more relaxed with physical closeness over time. At first, it might just be brief contact, a quick brush of fingers. Later, she may stand close enough that your shoulders meet or sit so near that your legs occasionally touch. Instead of shifting away, she stays. That lack of withdrawal is just as important as the touch itself. If she were uncomfortable, her body would instinctively create distance. Staying close shows acceptance and comfort. Psychologically, light touch also releases bonding chemicals in the brain that create feelings of warmth and connection. So these small gestures are not just expressive, they are reinforcing. Each contact subtly strengthens the emotional bond between you. There is also a testing element to it. She may touch you lightly and observe your reaction. Not because she is playing games, but because she is checking for safety and reciprocity. Does he tense up, or does he stay calm and grounded? Does he respect the moment, or does he escalate too quickly? These micro moments help her decide whether deeper intimacy feels safe. If you respond naturally and confidently, her comfort increases and the touches become more frequent and more relaxed. You might also notice caretaking gestures that involve touch, like adjusting your collar, brushing lint off your shirt, or fixing your hair. These behaviors carry a nurturing quality, which often appears when emotional attachment is forming. They show that she feels comfortable enough to enter your personal space and take care of you in small ways. Even something as simple as hugging you a little longer than usual or letting her hand linger for a second extra carries meaning, because time combined with touch amplifies connection. None of these gestures shout desire, but together they form a clear psychological pattern, one where her body is slowly, consistently reaching for you, choosing contact over distance, comfort over caution, and that steady progression of gentle touch quietly signals that intimacy is no longer just an idea in her mind, but something her whole body is beginning to welcome. The fifth shift happens through something so subtle that most people completely overlook it, yet psychology consistently shows it to be one of the strongest signs of emotional connection. And that is mirroring, the quiet, unconscious tendency to reflect another person's behavior, tone, and rhythm when we feel comfortable and drawn to them. When a woman wants intimacy with you, her body and mind begin syncing with yours almost automatically, without planning or effort, because human beings are wired to imitate those they trust and feel close to. Mirroring is not copying in an obvious or awkward way. It is gentle and natural, like two people slowly falling into the same beat of music. You might notice that if you lean back in your chair, a few moments later, she leans back too. If you speak softly, her voice lowers to match yours. If you slow your pace while walking, she slows down with you. These small adjustments happen beneath conscious awareness, yet they reveal a powerful truth about emotional alignment. The brain does this because similarity creates safety. When two people move alike, talk alike, and express themselves in similar rhythms, the nervous system reads it as connection rather than threat. So when she begins to mirror you, it means her mind is quietly saying, I feel comfortable here. I belong here. Eye contact also becomes part of this synchronization. She matches your gaze, holding it a little longer, blinking or smiling in response to your expressions, almost like an invisible conversation happening without words. Even laughter can mirror. If you chuckle, she chuckles. If your energy rises with excitement, hers rises too. This emotional matching is empathy in action. It shows that she is not just hearing you, but feeling alongside you. You may also notice language patterns shifting. She might start using phrases you commonly use or adopting similar humor and expressions. Again, this is not intentional imitation. It is psychological bonding. When we like someone, we subconsciously want to be on the same team, and mirroring creates that sense of unity. It reduces the sense of separateness between two people. Instead of you and her, it begins to feel like a shared space, a shared vibe, a shared emotional flow. There is also a comfort that grows from this alignment. Conversations feel smoother, less forced. You talk over each other less and naturally fall into turns. Pauses feel synchronized rather than awkward. This happens because your nervous systems are regulating together. In psychology, this is sometimes described as co-regulation, where two people unconsciously adjust to each other's emotional state. When she is calm around you, you feel calmer too, and when you are upbeat, she rises with that energy. That mutual adjustment is a strong foundation for intimacy because it creates a sense of emotional safety and belonging. Mirroring also signals investment because it requires attention. She has to be tuned in to you to reflect you. If she were distracted or uninterested, there would be no synchronization at all. Instead, when attraction is present, her body keeps subtly saying, I'm with you, I'm aligned with you, I'm moving where you move. And this quiet dance of matching gestures and rhythms becomes one of the clearest signs that the connection between you is deepening beyond casual interaction into something far more intimate and emotionally intertwined. The sixth shift is often the most misunderstood and yet the most psychologically significant of all, because it does not look romantic on the surface. It looks cautious, observant, and sometimes even slightly reserved. And that shift is her need to test trust and consistency before allowing true intimacy to deepen. When a woman wants closeness with you, she does not simply rush forward blindly, no matter how strong the attraction is, because intimacy without safety feels dangerous to the brain. The mind is always asking one core question, beneath everything else, which is whether this person is emotionally safe to attach to. So instead of dramatic gestures, she begins watching you carefully. She studies how you behave over time. She pays attention to whether your words match your actions, whether you show up when you say you will, whether you stay calm under stress, whether you treat her and others with respect. These observations are not games or manipulative tactics. They are protective instincts. Emotional vulnerability is risky, and before she gives you deeper access to her body and heart, she needs evidence that you are stable, predictable, and trustworthy. You might notice that she shares something slightly personal and then watches how you respond. Maybe she tells you about a bad day or an insecurity or a past disappointment. She is not just venting, she is evaluating. Do you listen or dismiss her feelings? Do you tease her or handle it with care? Your reaction tells her whether opening up further is safe. Sometimes she may ask for small favors or support, nothing dramatic, just little things like your opinion, your help, or your time. Again, this is not about dependency. It is about reliability. She wants to see if you follow through. Consistency builds security, and security is the foundation of intimacy. If you cancel plans often, disappear emotionally, or act unpredictably, her nervous system pulls back no matter how much she likes you. But if you remain steady, calm, and dependable, her defenses slowly lower. There is also a subtle emotional testing that happens through boundaries. She may disagree with you on something small or express a need just to see how you handle it. A healthy response, where you respect her perspective without becoming defensive or controlling, signals emotional maturity. That maturity makes her feel protected rather than pressured. You may also notice that she observes how you treat people who cannot benefit you, like waiters, strangers, or friends. Character matters deeply when intimacy is on the line, because attraction can create chemistry, but character determines safety. Over time, if you consistently show integrity, patience, and steadiness, something shifts inside her. She relaxes, her messages become warmer, her body language softens. She initiates more closeness. That is the moment you know trust has formed, because trust changes everything. Once she feels safe, intimacy flows naturally without force or persuasion. She no longer hesitates or second-guesses being close to you because her mind has already concluded that you are someone she can lean on without fear. And that quiet decision, built slowly through observation and consistency rather than words or promises, becomes the strongest sign that she is ready to let you into the deepest parts of her emotional and physical world. When you step back and look at everything together, you begin to realize something very simple yet very powerful about intimacy, and it's this: real connection is never forced, never chased, and never manufactured through clever lines or dramatic moves. It unfolds quietly through psychology, through patterns of safety, comfort, and trust. A woman who truly wants intimacy with you does not leave you confused or guessing endlessly. Her behavior tells the story long before her words ever do. First, she softens emotionally and lets you see behind her walls. Then she moves closer, shrinking the physical distance between you. Her attention becomes focused and intentional, as if you naturally matter more. She begins light, subtle touch, testing and building comfort. She mirrors your energy and rhythm, syncing with you in ways neither of you consciously plan. And finally, she watches for consistency, making sure you are someone stable enough to trust with her vulnerability. These 6 shifts are not tricks or strategies. They are human instincts. They happen automatically when attraction meets emotional safety. So the real lesson here is not to chase intimacy or try to force signs to appear. That approach only creates pressure and pushes people away. Instead, become the kind of presence that naturally invites closeness. Be calm, be grounded, be emotionally steady. Listen more than you talk, respect boundaries, show up consistently. Because when you create safety, intimacy grows on its own. You won't have to convince her. You won't have to decode mixed signals. You won't have to wonder where you stand. Her actions will gently, repeatedly move her toward you. And when a woman freely chooses closeness, when her mind and body both relax in your presence, that connection is real, healthy, and lasting. The kind of intimacy that doesn't burn out quickly but deepens with time, built not on pressure or performance, but on trust, comfort, and genuine emotional alignment.